5 o'clock on the West Coast, 8 p.m. evidently on the East Coast. Ladies and gentlemen, and ladies, cats and dogs, children of all ages and everything in between. You know who it is. It is the kid, Unc Just, a.k.a. Uncle Pizza, the pizza freak, always resonating at that pizza frequency. It means I love talking about pizza, I love making pizza, but mostly I love sharing pizza with people that I give a ship about. Yes, literally, breaking bread with mother stinkers that I care about, and I have a sneaking suspicion that you two, my friends, also resonate at said pizza frequency. Or why else would you be here? Bum, 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 bum. Where is here? Here we are. Science of Sourdough pizza class. This is Leaven Foods. We're bringing the microbes to market. I don't know. This is 2, 3 post Pizza Expo. And this is post Pizza LA City Pizza Fest too. I'm going to just real quick bring it down. I ate too much pizza on Saturday. It was great to see a ton of faces. You know, my standouts, I love me some D-Town, love me some Truly. L'Assorted is always on my list. It was absolutely delicious. You guys know how to find me if you you want more of my my insight. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you've been here before, thank you for hanging out with us. If you've never been here, thanks for joining us. So this is the deal. We have a lot of stuff to cover today. We got a lot of great panelists. Cam and Jimmy are here, obviously from Leaven Foods. At the end of the discussions, we're going to be at the end of our guest thing. We're going to run through. I believe we're going over the results of some of the models. So this is going to be a really exciting thing. A lot of questions to go over. We've got Mike and Daniel here, two of the two great pizza makers that Noel is going to be chit-chatting with, asking you a bunch of questions. If you have questions, please put them in the chat. It's doing that weird thing. Let it do the weird thing. If you have questions, please put them in the chat. If you have dough picks or Instagram handles, or if you run a pizzeria, please, please, please do not be afraid to share all that stuff in the chat. As far as I know, everyone can chat along with us. So because we have so much stuff that we're going to be going over today, I'm not going to waste any time. And this is when you say, oh, no, Justin, you're just so handsome, you're so funny, you're so clever. Hey, check the fit, huh? Who's got the Riz today? Look at this. I just got back from an audition. Danny and I was like, Danny, yo, what's up? We're both at Whole Foods. That was like 20 minutes ago. He's like, oh, man, I got to run back and I got to jump on that Zoom with you. I'm excited to have the chit-chat. Here we go. Without any further ado, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Slow Rise himself, East Coast. No Slow Rise Pizza Brown.
Well.
Wow, you are really out of sync, I feel like.
Why would you say that?
I don't know, because it's just like your mouth went, and then went, well, like a second later. So, I'm going to have to fix that in post. Where are you? Are you in The Shining? Are you red rumming me?
I have no Wi-Fi.
Uh-huh.
I'm in a hotel in an undisclosed location.
Oh, God. Oh, geez.
I'm here to see a band. I can't even add it to the chat for some reason. I'm hot spotting it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going down. It's getting real.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see you. You're in Florida. You and your wife are going to go see some concerts, so you deserve it. All right, so last week we had a really good lineup. We talked to a bunch of our friends. We had Lee, and we had Mike, and we had Gary, and then we had another Mike. I don't have the thing in front of me, but we had a ton of great questions, and we delved into the microbes. This week, you, me, Cameron got a chance to do the floor at the Pizza Fest, which was outstanding, and that brings us up to where we are today. Real quick, any standouts from the Pizza Fest? Oh, actually, let me do something while you're talking. Let's just switch my background. Here we go. How was it? Talk to me.
Let's see. I actually thought that every slice that I had was really good, and I had about eight slices, and I thought that everybody brought their best game, and that's really something. There we were. So
Here's Noel and Tony G and Danny, and look at Noel. They're just these. What was the name of your panel that you had?
Dough Whisperers.
Look at you guys. I'm so proud of you guys. Just whispering to the dough. Dough, I love you. Dough, what kind of music do you want to listen to? Dough, don't you want to be eaten by us? It was pretty awesome. It was
It was
pretty
great.
awesome. It
It
was
was
pretty
great.
awesome.
So I got to reconnect with from Danny Boy,
Hmm.
Chef Daniel Holzman, and
Yeah.
so I invited him to come on today. So let me just give a quick review for people who haven't been with us every step of the way. So we are coming up on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, and we're going to launch a series of brand new pizza classes.
Hmm.
In leading up to those, we've been trying to go over one style every week, not as a class, just as a general discussion. So we had John from Spacca Napoli on maybe 3 weeks ago, and we reviewed the Neapolitan style, which is a very, very low inclusion rate, meaning a very low amount of yeast. And I love that he does an ambient rise for as much as 30 hours on his Neapolitan dough. Not really in the truest style of VPN Neapolitan, but some of the best Neapolitan, some of the most digestible Neapolitan I've ever had.
I love that word, coloring a little bit outside the lines, but still giving you something that you can relate to and you can recognize.
There we go. And then last week we delved into the Neapolitan style.
The new Neapolitan, yeah?
Yeah, and so we talked about some of the elements of that. And so let's see. On the 5th, we're gonna start with Neapolitan, and then 7 days after that, which check my math, I think will be May 12th. We're gonna try to do that Neapolitan.
Now we're gonna go through like a mix and stuff, yeah? We're gonna
We're gonna do a
okay,
little mini class.
okay,
And
yeah.
so the idea is we want to teach people how to mix with our microbes.
Mhm.
And the third today's discussion is going to be about what will be our third class, which is the New York style.
Right. And that's why we brought Danny on, yeah?
That's why we're having Danny on. Yep.
And Mike.
And so we want to start to also talk about different kinds of pre-ferments, because besides using wild yeast, besides using an instant sourdough starter, we want to teach people how to use the wild yeast and the sourdough starter to make a Poolish, to make
a Biga.
a Biga.
Preferment. Yeah.
Are you going to finish all my lines?
You told me time was of the essence tonight.
So you say every word right before we're like a married couple. That's what we are. That's what we are.
I do. Just don't.
It can go both ways. I can mute myself mid-sentence and see if you can finish.
Don't you tell either of our wives, okay? Just keep
Justin,
it.
I think I know where I went wrong with you. I spoiled you early on, and now look at you.
God, I wish.
A shining example of a spoiled West Side LA child.
That's right. You can just check out my little. I'll flip it
You're
up.
so well dressed today. What is going on there?
So I told you, I came straight from an audition. Actually, I came straight from an audition, had to pick up my blood pressure medicine, then go get dinner. That's why I saw Danny, came straight home, set up the green screen. You know the deal.
Good. Hold on. So one sec. Let me get through my thoughts. So, and then after we talk to Daniel, we're going to talk to Mike. Now, Mike, I met. I guess we're mostly just Instagram friends. He purchased some of our product, and one of the things that we're doing is we're inviting any professional that purchases our product to do a 15 to 30 minute free consulting session with us, and we review their formulas as a courtesy. And by this I mean, and so far it's going very well, many professional pizza makers overuse their refrigeration, and they put way too much yeast in their formula. And this is not how our product has been meant or designed to perform. The idea is you use as much yeast or bacteria or sourdough as you need, but as little as possible, right? And you let time and temperature and the magic microbes.
Well, and it brings it back to what you said earlier that I jumped on, was digestibility of the product.
Good.
Right? If you're doing the fermentation before it gets into your gullet, you're not going to have all those issues. And we went over those with Nancy in all of our healthy pizza classes.
There you go.
So I'm really excited. Yeah.
Good. Now with Mike, one of the reasons that I asked him to come on after we had our meeting was that he's not using one but two pre-ferments in his pizza. Yeah. He's using a Poolish and he's using there you go, finishing my sentences again. Stop that. I'm going to mute you. So the thing that's interesting about that is that a lot of advanced pizza and bread makers do that. It's not a trick. It's a really cool technique. So we're going to discuss some of the benefits of using multiple pre-ferments, or even just some of the differences between, Bigas and Poolishes, or commercial yeast and wild yeast, this kind of stuff.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm really excited, and I think that's a perfect thing because before we were talking with Danny, he specifically had a question about Poolish and Biga. So I think and he got a little starter pack of the bacterias too. So maybe we'll be able to encourage him to start fiddling around a little bit to see, because he was trying to maybe navigate what are the specific differences that each of the pre-ferments provides in your chew, in your taste, in your bite. So should we bring him on? Anything else you
Let's
want to go over with?
Yeah, I want to go over one more thing that I'm
Okay.
also really excited about. So, after we talk to Dan, after we talk to Mike, we're going to bring Cameron on. And so, one of the things that I love about working with microbiologists like Cameron is that I ask them for things and they bring them, just like Santa, right? And so, back in the day when I was a new pizza maker, there was this website called pizzamaking.com.
Mhm.
And there were some low resolution GIFs and JPEGs on that site that were predictive models for yeast and sourdough. Fresh yeast, IDY, ADY, and sourdough. And a lot of people like me were just thirsty for information. And I said to Cameron, hey, these things are really cool, but they're not really built out. They're not really very usable or user friendly, as my parents like to say, because they're GIFs and JPEGs. They're not working Excel spreadsheets. Do you think we could build our own predictive models? And he kind of laughed, and I wasn't sure what it meant. Like, it's like the, haha, that's impossible, or
Yeah.
haha, no problem. Guess
What does
what
that
it turned
laugh
out?
mean? Yeah, he
Guess
could
what
do it.
it guess what it was?
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah,
No
yeah. I
problem.
like
So,
having the smart guys on our side, because you and me, we've just survived on our looks for so very long.
especially
My
you.
brother, my husband in pizza. Without any further ado, I think we should bring on Danny. Yeah, what do you say?
Yes,
Let's
sir.
do it. Danny boy, if you're there, my friend, please come on down. Dan, if you don't mind, unmute. There he is.
Oh,
Hello,
how am
my
I doing?
friend. Good, brother. Uh,
Hello. Thanks
we
for having me.
realize that we're neighbors as well as brothers in pizza, all of us.
I feel like I live between the two of you.
You do.
So
You
we're like
do.
a sandwich more than a pizza.
You're the delicious middle, and Noel and I are just the bread. But, here at Slow Rise, we say it's all about that found day dough. Whether it be people or pizza, you don't have a solid foundation. How can you build upon it? I'm going to let y'all get on.
Mr.
Hi.
Holzman, how are you?
I'm doing so well. I'm so happy. I got off a little early today. We were so busy at the downtown pizza shop.
Beautiful.
I
Beautiful.
jumped on the line and I was making pizza all day. It felt very good.
Yeah, you still get on the line and make pizza all day. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's my job.
That's my job. It's not a beautiful thing. It's your job. I love that.
That's my job.
Good. Well, it used to be my job. Now I'm like some kind of webmaster and some kind of online teacher. Things get a little crazy
Traveling
sometimes.
guru. Traveling guru.
Traveling guru. That's a good one. I like that. Can I use it?
Absolutely.
So, besides being a chef, you're something of a wordsmith. I kind of, as I get to know you better, I'm noticing that. Did you start out doing something besides chefing?
No, I started working when I was like 14 years old. I started working at a fancy seafood restaurant in New York City, like three Michelin star fancy spot. I got real lucky. So I've always worked in the kitchen, and I tried to work in regular human job, but it didn't wasn't a good fit. The
Same here. Same
politics
here.
didn't work for me.
No,
Yeah.
I think we understand each other. So you started when you were 14. Do you care to name the three Michelin star restaurant that you worked at?
I, I worked well. So I started working at San Melita's. I worked actually. My first job was at Gino's Pizzeria on 83rd Street between First and Second Avenue.
I love that.
There were a lot of firsts in there. There was they watched. I was a delivery boy, and I got to make pizza across the street. So that was my first job
Awesome.
when I was like 12 years old. And then I went on to working in this fancy seafood restaurant, La Bernardin, which was I worked there for 5 years. I had a really great experience. I went to Culinary Institute, and then I went to the San Francisco, and I worked in more fancy French restaurants. And my trajectory was I'm gonna work in I'm gonna own, I'm gonna be the toke. And then at some point I looked around and realized the folks that were eating in the restaurant were not my people. It's like I'm a servant. I went in through the back door, through the service entrance. I used the service bathroom. And I don't know. My friends and family couldn't afford to eat in the restaurant I was working at, and it didn't feel right. I don't know, there was something about everybody talking about how people should eat better, feed their kids better food, and eat better food, and blah, blah, blah. And it was like this limousine liberal attitude of like, you should do a better job. And it's like, well, how about we should do a better job of providing great food at in the value driven category. So like I opened this restaurant called the Meatball Shop in New York City, like I don't know, 15 years ago or something. Sorry.
I went there 15 years ago. I loved it.
Thank you for that. And it was like, why do I work at this fancy restaurant where I serve at the time it was like $28 for a bowl of pasta. Now you'd be like, oh, that's a good deal. But at the time that felt like $1 million, And I'm like, we could afford to serve this for $12 or $8, or when we can serve the same great quality food if we choose inherently inexpensive ingredients and serve them. And like, there were good restaurants that were shitty places to work and shitty restaurants that were good places to work. But why can't we have our cake and eat it too? Be good to our employees and our customers and our neighbors and our purveyors and provide. And so that was like this goal that I'm still working towards. But I feel good about myself every day because honestly, I'm not gonna be rude. Like, you could put caviar on a cracker and it's gonna taste good and it's worth the money. But making pizzas like as close as you can come to alchemy. It's bread baking. I mean, you could take you take these ingredients that are just it's a bag of flour and some water and maybe it's even wild yeast from the air, like, and then you turn it into something that is so special and such a transformation and such magic. Yeah, very fulfilling. So I own a pizzeria.
And so hold on. So how did you go from, and what was, I mean, you started at Gino's, right? And then you went through Michelin 3-star fancy frou-frou food. And then what brought you back? Was there, and how did you arrive at Danny Boy's?
The truth is that I was working at this fancy restaurant in San Francisco and I was a part owner at this point. I worked in a bunch of other spots. And I was just unhappy. And a friend of mine owned this restaurant, and it wasn't that great of a restaurant, but he had a good life. And I started looking at that world like,
I got it.
Man, even like the fancy chefs at these fancy restaurants, if you have the hubris to believe you can be Eric Ripert and say like, I'm in the top 0.1% and all this stuff, you're still like, am I going to like the life that I got? Am I like, am I driving? And so that was a real shifting point for me where I said, maybe I should give up my like dreams and goals.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
And then and it all kind of fell into place because as soon as you give up is when you really start like the same. By the way, pizza. Sorry,
dude, you're like a philosopher. I think let's not even talk about pizza. Let's just talk about life philosophy.
Like life.
I'm enjoying this so much. I'm gonna send you $300, which is what I should be paying for therapy right now.
For therapy, yeah. No, I can do the sounds too if you want to do that. No, the pizza thing was exactly the same thing. I moved out to LA. I opened a bunch of restaurants in New York, and I was. I found myself, I was like this CEO of a company, and it was, instead of working in the kitchen that I'm good at, I had a job my resume wasn't built for, and I wasn't happy again. And so the idea of opening a pizzeria was like, I want to open something that I can actually run, something small enough that I can have my hands in it and physically, I can mop the floor and I can look at all the mistakes I've made building my last business and set it up properly from the beginning with a team of people that I like working with, I'm happy. And it really, the idea of learning how to make pizza. I had restaurants that I was a chef at that had pizza programs, and I'm from New York and I'm a chef, so like we all have an attitude. But I didn't question the fact, and it wasn't like, oh, I know how to. I went and worked for a bunch of different folks making pizza. I took your class, which was an eye opener. I went and worked for my friend Vincent in Vegas at Good Pie, and I went and worked with John Arena a bunch. And worked in a bunch. And I worked with Chris Decker and a couple of his in one of John when he was working at Metro Pizza. I went and worked with him, and so I went around. I worked in a bunch of pizzerias, and I started asking all these questions. And there's like 85% everybody agrees on. And then 15% everybody's like got a different opinion. So I figured, okay, well, let's start with just agreeing with the 85% and just doing it that way, and I'll learn why that's important down the road. And then the 15%, I'll make my best choice. And then as I learn, I can evolve those decisions. And I think it was a pretty good strategy. What's really fun is I was making pizza, for a couple of years before opening the restaurant, like very seriously. And what I thought was right was like completely wrong. And it's evolved 100%. And I'm very proud of that. It's very cool to see. I go into the pizzeria, like we just talked today, we're going to talk, and then I'm going to go in and it might change the entire, process. That's cool.
So let's break it down for people. So when you opened your first pizza shop downtown in LA, you chose a flour, right?
Yeah, I chose all Trumps.
Because that's what John Arini uses, and that's what I'm sure Vince Rotolo.
I think he uses. No, they actually. Vince Rotolo uses fancy flour. He was like, he uses Caputo Americano.
Oh, fancy! You're right.
He uses Caputo Americano, and I think since the Power Power, the John Arena, I think uses a different General Mills product.
Okay.
But I used all Trumps, mostly because of I tried a couple of different flours and I didn't know enough to know what the difference was. And then what's funny is subsequently I thought, well, when I make baguettes, I really love the High Mountain flour from Central Milling.
Sure.
I think that for whatever reason, when I'm making baguettes, a mixture of that and
I love it.
Dark rye, a little bit of dark rye flour, it gives me a baguette that I really love the flavor of. So I thought, well, maybe I could try. And so I've tried to evolve the pizza dough. But, there's something about the all Trumps is really hard to get away from because it's so damn strong. Like we can make garlic. We make these garlic knots from our Sicilian dough. Our Sicilian dough is 78% hydration.
Yep.
And which is a weird thing, which I was told not to do because it's so expensive and difficult and blah, blah, blah. And we only have a planetary mixer, but it works great. And I'm so happy. And I love our Sicilian. And we make the garlic knots out of that Sicilian. And the garlic knots, we let it sit in the fridge for a couple of days in these metal cans. And then we tie we go to proof them, and for whatever reason, the temperature, whatever, it winds up taking like 18 hours or something, 16 hours for this dough to proof to the point where I can tie these knots. It's a very strange situation.
No, it's not. It's a very strong flour.
But they last forever. And if I've tried that with anything else, it's like it just can't get through. And I've tried putting vitamin C and all kinds of other nonsense in there to try and get it to like stand up, but the all Trumps just works for me.
Good.
And I like it.
Good.
Yeah, and it's also $19.80 a bag.
It's very cheap.
Yeah, which is why I can afford, this lovely house.
And all the swag that you have is also very high end. You have high end swag.
I'm very proud.
Yeah, you
very
should be.
proud.
You should
the
be.
Sandwich of Venice, right? It's the sandwich.
Sandwich of Venice.
So when we were talking at Pizza City Fest, you, Tony, and I, Tony was talking about flours. I was talking about pre-ferments, and you were talking about, looking for ways to, I don't know if it was get more flavor out of your dough. What if you could express what it is that you dreamed for your dough, if there was a way that you could improve it? I'm not going to say 15% because I feel like you're 95% of the way there, right?
No, I don't think so. I think look, I take a lot of pictures. I love to take photographs, and I take a lot of pictures, and every now and then I accidentally get a photograph that I like.
Yeah.
And I feel like a great photographer can look at something and say, this is what I want, and then they can go get it. Whereas I can go and say, let me spray the field with a bunch of negatives, and then eventually I'll maybe come up with something that looks good, luckily.
Mhm.
And it feels a little bit like that with pizza making, and I can start to hone in on the dough making process and say, I love the texture, but I want more of it. And I can get an accident and find my way into it. But then I'm like scared because I'm like, now I got this thing. I better not change anything because I could lose it. And then every now and then something goes wrong. And then I call John Arena and I say, hey, John, like something's wrong. And he'll ask me to walk through the process and say, you should try. Why don't you try an auto lease for 20 minutes instead of 12? And I'll go, I don't know why. I don't understand. But then, so what I would dream of is being able to understand what exactly is like.
Going
I
on.
love the micro blisters, and I like
Yes.
micro blisters that are different sizes.
Sure.
And I love a crispy texture. Like the thing that I really love is New York City pizza. Everybody gets it. Like it should fold and crack, but it shouldn't break. So that makes sense. Like it should stand up. Okay. So you're like, great. It's not cracker thin. It's crispy on the bottom, and then it's got a rise. It's got a little dough, a thin dough package,
Mhm.
and then which is insulating the crust from the cheese and the sauce, so it's not sogging through. So
Yeah.
it stays crispy and chewy at the same time, not just crack. And when I first made pizza, it was like I stretched it super thin to get it crispy. And it's like, well, that's not actually the right answer, right? The answer is to get for New York style pizza, in my opinion. I think the answer is to get the rise so you can insulate the crisp.
I agree 100%. And how do you get the rise? Proper fermentation and gluten development?
Proper fermentation, proper gluten development,
Hydration?
proper proofing so that it's the right temperature when it goes in the oven.
That's a good one. So when you say proofing, are you telling me that you put your dough into a warm environment? Is that what you mean by proofing?
Yes. I mean, when I say warm environment, I pull it out of the fridge. So like in the morning, we make, I don't know, 70 pizzas to start our day, God, whatever it is. Hopefully we pray we're going to sell that many. And so at 70 degrees, 75 degrees ambient temperature, like we pull out our dough a couple hours before. And the older the dough, the colder it can go in the oven is what I feel like. Whereas the younger dough, you want it to really warm up more. So I think of when I say warm up more, I mean like 55 to like 68 degrees, like 68 degrees, like my young dough, like I put it in the oven at 68 degrees. My old dough, like I can get at the oven at 54, 55 degrees, and it'll still get to where I want. Meaning the yeast will wake up and it'll rise before the crust forms and stops it from growing, but it won't grow and fall, right? The little balloons won't burst. And then the other thing I think is obviously the stretching of the dough on an 18-inch pie. Everybody loves that big, fat crust. Pizza makers, bakers, seeing our dough, our baby grow and rise is like a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the truth is New York City pizza doesn't have a giant corniche. And so, and like look around a pizzeria at the end of the day, even in the fanciest pizzerias, like we'd love to see everybody eating the crust, and every pizza maker grabs a piece of the crust and smells it and tastes it, and that's our dream. But a lot of people don't eat the crust.
No.
They just don't. And God, like you want to force it on people, and you could try your best, but it's like they're paying us. So for me, getting my pizza makers to form the crust the right size, and it's not about you're pushing the air to the corniche, but you're keeping that flat surface so that you have the same thickness all the way up to the crust. And then
I'm just curious. So when we were talking with Tony, he says for a round pie, he doesn't go under 65% hydration. How about you? Do you go under
62%? I'm 62%.
I'm going to make a note. So for that strong flour, that is one of the reasons when we were talking that you need to go so long, and you're getting so much better results on your your dough because it takes a long time to relax. And those garlic knots, oh my God, no wonder they take a long time to proof and relax. 62% on a 14 or 15% protein flour is pretty low and
It's like a
super old
pretzel,
school. Yeah,
like a
yeah.
pretzel or a bagel. I'm 62% water hydration for you freaks.
Thank you.
0.4% yeast, 2%
What kind of
olive
yeast do you
oil,
use?
and I use instant yeast. And I use
Instant
instant
dry.
yeast, and I'm so glad that I use instant yeast
I am too.
because
I am too.
I learned my lesson.
Yep.
With I actually had a fancy event that I was going to, and the can I say the F word?
You can.
The fucking dough didn't rise.
Oh boy.
Oh man, and it was a movie premiere, and my friend was like, runs a studio, and he was like, we're gonna get you in front of all these people, and there's this 100 million person TikTok star, and they're gonna do a video for you. Bring your pizza, and I brought the pizza,
Pizza
and
Hut.
I
Pizza Hut.
grinned and I grinned and bared it. I
Yeah.
grinned and bore it, but man, it didn't rise, and ever since then, I'm like, I'm never making that mistake again.
So
Not on the West
you
Coast.
hit it hard with 0.4. You're like, it's a very extreme dough. It's low hydration, a high amount of yeast. It's as much as a same day baguette, which is super old school actually. Back in the day, the pizzas and baguettes were both 60%. 60%. Can you imagine?
Interesting, yeah.
And
But they didn't
1%
have
fresh yeast.
But they didn't have refrigerators.
They had like cooler spaces, but yeah.
Interesting, because I keep we sit our dough. Our dough rests 4 or 5 days, something like that.
It's a very long time.
Which is odd. But
It's not odd. It's not odd because the more water you have in your dough, the faster it moves. That's why a Poolish moves faster than a Biga. Hydration. That's why a wet dough proofs faster than a stiff dough. We were talking about that earlier, right?
Yeah. Our Sicilian is like 78%. Sorry, Sicilian 78%. More salt.
More salt.
And it does not age as long. It does not need to age as long.
No.
But it will sit. Like I can cook one of these bad boys after like a week, and it's fine.
Yeah.
But it doesn't add anything that I discernibly positive to the outcome.
No.
That
I feel the same way. Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, I mean, to me, it sounds like you're doing everything right. One of the things you were talking about, and I didn't know because you're very sarcastic like I am, so, and I don't know you very well. So, were you really asking if you could possibly ferment your dough for fewer than 5 days and get the same or better results?
Absolutely. I wasn't asking because I necessarily am like I want to change my process so much as I would. The big problem is the texture. Those micro blisters, and it's not just the micro blisters. It's like many different sized bubbles that start to form, and I can't find them before 4 days. Like 2 days, I start to see it. 3 days, they start to grow, and after 4 days, they really are like.
All right. So
wow.
let's just talk about this because I used to be a freak for micro blisters like 15, 20 years ago when I was first getting into it. I'd get them sometimes, and I wouldn't get them other times. Now I remember going to Nancy Silverton's bakery, right? Back in the day, this was in the 1990s, and seeing these little rolls that she put out, they had tons of blisters, right? And soon I found out that she was doing a couple of things different than I was doing. Number one, she was using a pre-ferment, right? So she uses she uses a bunch of different pre-ferments. I used to know one of her bakers, and I know the guy that makes her dough now. So a pre-ferment helps with blisters, number one. Also, number two, and we were talking about this with Tony, do you do your fermentation on the front end and the back end? And Tony and I both said fermentation on the back end. It leaves you more gas in the tank, right? That's why your dough can go 5, 6, 7 days because you're not leaving it out early. But Nancy does the exact opposite. She gets those amazing blisters. She lets her dough sit out very well fermented for a long time at the beginning before it gets refrigerated, and then it has a very short window of opportunity when it comes out at Mozza. I used to know the executive chef there, and he was like, dude, you come for lunch, by 3 o'clock the dough is dead, right? And I used to always come late because I didn't want to. I like to come in between so I can sit and watch, So
Interesting.
we were going so fast I didn't have a chance to bring it up, but that's something that you're going to want to. Those two things you're going to want to fool with, and I'll name a few more things while we're spitballing. So you want to put more fermentation on time out of the walk-in. So I like a nice long bulk. Do you go more than an hour on a bulk, or do you go?
No, I'm balling it right away.
Okay, so then one of the easy ways to get blisters is don't ball it right away. Do a couple of stretch and folds, or let it sit out and let it bulk ferment for an hour or two, and then see what happens and see if you can get just a few tiny little micro blisters. If you can get a few of those going, you'll see them much more quickly in the secondary fermentation when your dough is balled.
Fabulous.
I'm not making this stuff up because there's a guy on pizza making who used to refer to us as blister knots, astronauts in search of blisters, because it's an obsession, right? And it's not just the way they look, right? It's
the texture and the color and the whole thing. When you bite into it and it's crispy, shattering, but then chewy, soft right underneath, and you can marry those two textures. It's spectacular.
Yeah. I also when I teach my beginners, when I used to do beginner classes and we do the hand mix, I was trying to explain to them that you want the perfect combination of strength and extensibility. So the strength comes from how much you mix it. The strength comes from how much protein is in the flour, right? So a high protein flour and a good Hobart mix gets you that strength. But you also need extensibility, because that perfect balance of strength and extensibility is what gets you those micro blisters. So a little more time before you ball it can get you those micro blisters. Have you ever tried a teeny tiny bit more water? 62 and a half, 63.
You think that would get just 1 or 2% might make a huge difference?
Well, here's the thing: you have to see. Also, how you ball it, right?
I use a baller. I switched to a baller.
I mean, I know why you do it. You got two shops and they're busy. So,
and because I don't want to get a carpal tunnels lawsuit. No, I mean really, because that was the most inconsistent part of the process.
So here's one thing. Here's what I would say. When you get your car washed, right? The car wash does most of the washing, 99% of it. But the way they finish that car, right? That the hand finish is you want to finish all your dough balls by hand to get that.
These guys give it we close it out and make sure that there's no hole.
So the surface tension, you want to. Sometimes those ballers can make it too tough because they just add a lot of friction at the end. So you're not letting your dough relax before you ball it. You're kind of doing it right away. So I wonder. Yeah. Look, you can say you're 85% of the way there. I can say you're 95% of the way there. But it's never one thing. It's always two or more. And so that's why pizza makers are always out of balance. If you're trying to make something better, and then once you make it really good, if you can lock it in and just make sure you're doing that same thing over and over again. I'll come down to your shop one day and mix with you. Are you using a thermometer like I taught you?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Good. No, I would love that, because I think it's a matter of being able to make educated decisions and not, as we said, just luck into the outcome you'd like.
Good. I love it. So we could go on and on, but we got lots of things to do. So I'm gonna get a hold of you, and maybe one day I'll come by and we can do a mix together, and I can kind of like eyeball your process and just help you make notes. Right. We'll write in your dough journal together. You have a dough journal, don't you?
I do. I do. I've got all the temperatures of every batch that's ever been made.
You're the best.
Except for one dough guy we fired for not writing it down.
That's where Noel wants to do a deep dive into your dough journals. Bunch of dough dorks talking. Jeez,
can I tell you one thing? The one time I didn't write down what I did, I made some of the best pizza of my life, and it was like an old 5-day sourdough. And my wife was like, "Can we have pizza for lunch?" I'm like, "Honey, we've had pizza the last 4 days." She's like, "I want pizza," and I looked at the dough and I'm like, I didn't really write down what the temperature was, and it was incredible. I bit into it, and I'm like, "Eureka! I have discovered America!" Right? Never was able to repeat it again because I wasn't taking.
And never the twain shall meet.
Had micro blisters. It had crunch. It was thin. It was perfectly chewy. Oh well.
The never-ending, kind of quest. Whoop, hit.
All right, so
couple
Thank you
questions.
guys for having me so much. Is
Can
there-
I-
do you
can I-
have more
before
for me?
you-
Oh, got more.
Justin, please.
Before you bounce off, Danny, you had asked a question earlier about the difference between Biga and Poolish. Yeah, just real quick.
Yeah,
No.
you hear about like we understand that like the French do it one way, the Italians do it the other. If this was
So
cheese making, we
cultural
just
is part
pick
of
the
it.
French.
Culture is one thing, yes.
And if it was cheese making, you'd be like, unless it's Parmesan, I'm going with the French. They're better. But in this case, the question is like, is there a difference? When should I apply which one to
Good.
my dough making process?
Let me
and why?
I'll just give you, these are not opinions, these are
Yeah.
time-tested standards. So for one thing I would say, if your dough is stiff and strong, a little bit of Poolish or some kind of pre-ferment will give it a little more extensibility, a little more fermentation on the front end like we discussed, and probably micro blisters faster.
Okay.
For if you were, I don't know if you're going high on hydration and you're looking for more strength, a little bit of Biga goes a long way, right?
What is it about the Biga? The only one for me, Biga is like half the amount of water to
Pretty
Poolish,
much.
but there's no difference.
Pretty
So
much.
like, what is it about the Biga that gives it more strength versus why?
Well, let's see. One of the things I notice is that the Italians use a Biga, right? And
Mhm.
so the Italians have, especially in the north, they have really weak growing environment for flowers. So traditionally, their flowers have been very extensible and not strong enough. And so what I'm noticing is
That's why their pizza flops down.
It's one of the reasons it flops down. Also, the buffalo mozzarella and the super watery, beautiful San Marzano
Fair
tomato
enough.
sauce, right? But I noticed that a lot of I'll call them like Neapolitan 2.0 guys are using Biga, especially the ones that come to the United States to make pizza, and they're getting it crispier, right? It's trapping air a little better, right? And just improved fermentation, a little more acidity. So strength and acidity is what I would say.
Kanoto, yeah?
Kanoto. Well, those guys that are doing Kanoto, they're using sourdough, Poolish, Biga. They're doing it all. High hydration. They're throwing the kitchen sink at their pizza.
Daniel, we always say no. Just say no to LDP, and that's limp, fill in the blank pizza. So
It's not my favorite style, but
No.
but
look, we say pizza always and always pizza. It's the deal, and people like what they like, and that's great. And that's what's great about friggin' pizza is that it means so many different things to so many different people. Let them eat what they want to eat, and I think that there was a good thing that you all were talking about during the forum the other day was like, I want to share the pizza that I like to eat with people. And
can I bring up one other thing about that? Like everything has been built based on the function it performs in the environment based on the needs of the people, right? So like Neapolitan pizza tastes good out of that oven, like spectacularly delicious. Well, maybe a few seconds after you don't burn your mouth. And New York City pizza tastes amazing, reheated as a crispy, crispy slice, right? The same way that pizza that's been designed to deliver is doughy in nature because it should never be crisp because it will never end up crisp. So like you want it to be a doughy, chewy piece of brick or whatever it's supposed to be. So like for the place and for the time, if you want to smoke cigarettes, drink espresso, go to Naples. God bless you.
God bless you.
Um,
Great way to end it.
Yeah.
Good job, Danny.
Danny, you do
Thank
have
you,
a couple.
guys.
You do have a couple questions in the chat. If you wouldn't mind responding to those people, that would be great. But
Oh,
I think
yeah.
it's
Do I
time
write
to-
it down?
Yeah, you can write it down. That would be great. You just got a couple what you thought was right, and then how sourdough's your dough taste after the final proof. So thank you so much, brother. Look forward to coming over for some smosh. My idea is pits and pies on the vine. We'll talk about that later, dog.
Look forward to that.
All right, buddy.
Bye, guys.
That was
Daniel
awesome.
Holzman there, buddy. He was great.
That was
Great.
awesome. That's awesome. Can I bring on our next guest? This is your friend, Mike Rad Mike, right?
Yeah.
Mike, if you're there, can you, here we go. Can you come on down, my friend? Come on down, please. Please. There he is. Mike, what? There he is. Mike, hello, my friend.
What's happening?
Hey, we were just sitting here talking to Danny. What did you think?
It was good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was great. It's great.
Much more experience than myself.
Hey, look, come on, sliding scale. Come on, all we are.
Experience is overrated. I say it all the time.
Jesus, come on. We said variables in the pizza equation. I'm gonna let you guys chit chat. I'm gonna do a little swag. Little swag thing as I live. Okay, all right, here we go. Leaven Foods. Bye, guys.
Hi, Justin. Mike, how are you?
I'm well, thanks.
Thank you for joining us. So, you have a pizzeria. Where is it?
San Luis Obispo, so probably 3 hours north of you.
You know, some people say San Luis Obispo. Some is
They
that as
do.
silent? What?
Yeah, it's San Luis.
It's San Luis. Good.
Obispo.
Good. Excellent.
Yeah, I grew up.
Oh, you grew up there.
Yeah.
Did you grow up in the pizza business? Did you work at Gino's on the between first and second when you were 14 years old as a delivery boy? How'd you come to the pizza world?
I grew up here. I used to I liked bread, to be honest.
Nice.
Bread. I've been making bread for I don't know, over 20 years probably. There's no good bread here, so I started making it.
That's beautiful.
Started with the Peter Reinhardt books, and
great. Love them.
When I was young, and started then Tartine book and all the other ones. So yeah.
So I was funny when we were first talking, you bought some microbes and we invited you on for a 15 to 30-minute Zoom. And I was looking at your recipe and I thought to myself, this looks like a Chad Robertson inspired recipe. And I started to talk about the Lucky Peach article. And you're like, yep, Chad Robertson, he's my guy. So that's one of the reasons that I wanted to bring you on, because I'm really into this idea of people who come to pizza from bread, right? And they bring either techniques or recipes or pre-ferments from that. And so what I'm trying to work with people on, whether they're home bakers or professionals, is figuring out what pre-ferment is right for them, right? It could be a yeasted pre-ferment. It could be a wild yeast pre-ferment. It could be a natural fermentation like a sourdough, right?
Totally.
Lots of different words, a masa madre, a crescita.
Yeah. I mean, straight doughs work great, like Danny said, that like in the fridge for a long, long time. The way we build ours is, well, I do my pre-ferments, the way I do my baker's math is a little different. A lot of people will say, oh, I use 20% starter or whatever. I use 20% Leaven or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think about it. I think the only other person, Pizza Shoals, he does it, the percentage of flour that I ferment. Because sometimes I change my water around, like if it's cold out, maybe we're at 90% hydration on our pre-ferment. If it's super hot out and I can't control how hot it's going to be in the night, we drop our pre-ferment.
Love it.
So that we can, go a little bit longer. So we kind of use water as a lever sometimes to
I like it.
be able to control things. Same with our starter. Everything works, I think, based on everyone's schedule. So there's no real right way to do it. It's just lots of different tools to use.
Yeah.
My recipes made with me dropping my daughter off and being back to the pizza shop at 9 a.m. That was one of the things that the recipe was built around. So yeah, we make a Poolish, and we make a Leaven the night before. We do about 15% of our total flour goes into both the pre-ferment and the Leaven. We use a very small amount of yeast. So for our Leaven, I'm at about, and this again changes depending on the time of year, but we're at about 5% inoculant, or starter to the amount of flour that we use in our Leaven. And then we use about 0.1% instant dry yeast on the Poolish side, and I say Poolish slightly because it's technically, a lot of people say Poolishes are 100% hydration, and ours right now is usually between 80 and 90. It just
why not?
Because it's ready when it's ready, So and that's what works for our schedule. So
yeah,
that's what we do. So it's about 15% of our total flours in those pre-ferments. We mix that the next morning. It's at about 12-hour feed cycle, so I can mix it at 9 o'clock at night or 8:30 at night, and I'm good till 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. We mix it all.
And Do
Go
you
ahead.
do your Poolish at the same time you do your Leaven?
Yeah,
So it's on a 12-hour cycle, about the same.
yeah, they're both they're both at like pretty much even.
Love it.
So, and then we change the temperature, the Levan or however I'm part
Love it.
dyslexic, so I have trouble with words, but
We all do.
Levan is at about 83%, or sorry, 83 degrees, and the Polish is going to come out at like 71, 72 degrees.
I love it.
And then
I
they
love
go
the
over,
specificity.
yeah, we're pretty specific with our temperatures. We try to nail them. And then we're pushing our dough pretty far. You were talking about on the front end or on the back end.
Yeah.
We are way on the front end. I mean, we're throwing in a lot of pre-ferment.
Yeah.
And then we're bulking for 4 hours or so.
Yeah.
And then we're balling up.
Yeah.
And we're going into a fridge that's not a fridge. It's like a freezer that keeps it a little bit warmer than a
I
refrigerator.
love it. Everything you do. Here's the thing. I could taste your pizza by the way that you were describing all the beautiful things that you do. And then I was reviewing your Instagram the other day because I wanted to pick out like 4 or 5 pictures that I could do a post with, and I could take some of those and also do stories from. And it was so hard to choose because there were so many different beautiful pictures of pizza. And I really mean that.
I used to
And
be a photographer. That probably helps.
probably helps. It does. No, but I mean that the care and specificity, right? That goes into your pizza making probably also goes into your photography.
Yeah. Yeah, it's simple. It's an IKEA light. You can get an IKEA light and put it right next to the finishing station. All of those pizzas are just pizzas off the line.
Yeah.
So every one of those is just a one off the line. But yeah, please spread those social, my friends. Yeah, I will. Yeah, so that's it. And then we ball up. We start mixing probably around 7:45. We do an hour autolyse. I use a mix of Karen Springs Mills flour
You sure
and
do.
King Arthur's flour. I've used a lot of different flours in bread making.
Yeah.
Used to use a lot of central milling flours.
Yeah,
I
these
just
are all
found,
great flowers. Great flowers.
yeah, I found the King Arthur's flour had a little bit better fermentation tolerance than the other one, and it was a little finer grade and like finer textured, and I
Yeah.
liked it.
All true. All true.
And then we use Trailblazer, Sequoia sometimes, and we use a little bit, and we'll kind of alter. Things change, man. Like we're pretty specific about how we do it, but things definitely change. And
Well, those Karen Spring Mills flowers, they change. They're seasonal, right?
yeah, totally,
They
and you
might
can tell.
this you can totally tell.
Yeah,
You can
so
totally tell.
you'll know, you'll be like, oh damn, it's like strong today,
Yeah.
and then it'll be strong the next day, and then you adjust the water or
You know,
whatever.
I gotta say, I don't actually think it's a problem. And I've talked to a lot of other pizza makers. I've talked to Brian Spangler about it, and he's been a long time Central Milling customer. But it as somebody who was doing the mix himself for decades, he would go a little crazy because he'd open the same bag of flour every day. I don't even think he was blending flours, and the Central Milling flour would be different. And when I talked to Nicky Justo about that, he's like, "That's right. Our flour is like a single malt scotch, and it changes every season and every year. If you want something to be 100% consistent, you need to use a blend, and they don't blend their flowers.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so yeah, those are the flours, Karen Springs Mills. I mean, when we were baking, I was using a lot of T85s and T65s, so we use those to blend in and get more flavor out of the dough. I mean,
Good.
for us, it's a lot of flavor, and we're going for flavor and texture. And then how much strength can you have for carrier toppings?
And so, tell us a little bit about let's get a little bit specific about your pizza. So, is it how many inches do you stretch it out to?
16.
16-inch pizza. That's a beautiful size. And how long and at what temperature will you say that you bake it for?
Just over 5 minutes at about 590. That's really dependent on we change hydration sometimes or play around with different stuff, and that's where we are right now. We're at about 595, 590 degrees. Depends if it's the bottom or the top deck.
Yeah. Of course, top deck's always hotter on yours or the bottom.
Top deck's always hotter. Top deck's hotter. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, then
What about intensity? Do you know how the Pizza Master has a top and a bottom intensity?
we changed that, but yeah, I'd say 6.4, 7.3, somewhere around there.
Got it.
Yeah, and then we have to. I mean, I'm pretty specific, dude.
You
I'm
are, and that's why I'm asking you all these beautiful questions, and you're
I
answering all of them. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys are interested. My employees are not as interested.
I cannot. I'm literally taking notes on everything you guys are saying. I
Yeah,
don't want to forget any of it because I'm learning from you guys.
yeah. So then we park the oven low because the Pizza Master floors they will get up to 640 and you have it set at 590 and you're like, what the fuck?
If you open and close your doors too much, absolutely.
Yeah. We park it at about 10 degrees cooler. We park it around 580, 585, and then
Yeah.
and then we go up and then we bring it back down and we go up and we bring it. I mean, we do that all night. So
It's great. It's great.
we just have to because otherwise we'll scorch it right away.
Right.
Our dough's pushed, so it's like it's wants to start dropping water, and it'll stick. The bottom will stick because it's to the end of its life, like you were
Yeah.
saying with Nancy's. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by that, just so I want to make sure that everybody understands, you're putting a lot of fermentation on the front end of the fermentation schedule so that when your dough hits the oven, it's a senior citizen, right? It's
Yeah.
super well fermented.
it is, yeah. And we do a lot of stuff to to have a lot of extensibility, like you're saying, a Poolish, a Leaven, and then
Both.
yeah, both. And then we also do an hour at least auto lees.
Yeah.
So yeah, the dough isn't that hard to open.
Yeah. And you use a spiral mixer, I see, so it's a nice gentle mix.
We've always used the spiral mixer.
We've got a few more minutes. Do you think you could give us one more tour like you did before the Zoom started so people can see your pizzeria?
Yeah, I'll try with this thing.
It's beautiful.
This is the little shop. I'll start at one corner. Usually we got these it's awesome, a lot of music in here. So we got little
Nice.
speakers, and there's speakers everywhere in this building.
Sweet.
Big community table. This is the shop going through.
No walk-in, I take it, right?
Nope, this is it. This is it for our refrigeration.
That's a lot.
So this is everything that's fixed. This is all the raw products that hasn't been ready. This is what we actually fermented. This is what we store in overnight. Nothing's in here right now, but will be tomorrow. It's a freezer hooked up to a controller. The controller's back there. It's called an Inkbird, but I've been using these forever. They're awesome. We have them hooked up to our proofer, but basically you have a plug for cool and a plug for hot.
Yeah.
And you set thresholds, and then it just turns on whatever element it needs to. So we can set our proofer rather than most proofers. The minimum is 80 degrees.
Yeah.
I like to be able to store things at 71. 72.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? Sometimes when you set it for 80, it's actually 85 if you take the internal temp.
Yeah. So this year, like tonight when we do our pre-ferments, I'll drop it back down to 71.
I love it.
And then there's a little probe that runs in here.
There you go. Love it.
And then these are the waters for tomorrow.
Beautiful.
Our starters here at 78. So that's why it was. That's
beautiful.
That's all the starter that we have to use for.
That's amazing.
Our pizza. That's so crazy when you go into other pizza.
So that starter is sitting at 78 degrees for 12 hours. That's what you're telling me?
No, it's on we're feeding it 3 times a day. So once when
you are.
9
beautiful.
in the morning, and then around 3, and then again when we do our pre-ferment.
That's my absolute favorite. A lot of people, I'm not going to say they're lazy, but they're like, can I get away with twice a day? And I'm like, you can, but 3 times a day is badass. Tell us why. Tell us why.
I don't know. It just smells better. It's a little more active, and
Cool.
Yeah, I just feel like it's a good way to kind of clean it out and get it.
Yes.
Like it smells better. I do a lot of things on smell.
Absolutely.
I was
Absolutely.
Bigger nose. So, yeah, this is my first purchase. I used to have one of the little white ones that everyone uses. I forget what those are called. The Italian one that's kind of cheap.
Mecnosud.
I have used a Mecnosud for the first couple years, and then I got this thing at the beginning of the year. This was our first big purchase, so I love it.
You know what? It's usually most people's last purchase, and that's why they end up with the Mechnosuit. No offense to the Mechnosuit.
Yeah.
But it's an inexpensive spiral mixer, and
It
they're
worked
small.
great.
They fit under the table, right?
Yeah, we had that thing maxed out, so
Everybody does.
that
We
was a
had
lot.
we
Yeah,
had
that was
one of those at Bestia for the first 2 years, and they
yeah.
were doing like 7 mixes a day. They were doing
Wow.
their pasta, their pizza, and we were doing all of our bread by hand. It was insane.
Yeah, I kid. We had that thing maxed out, and yeah, it made it. Someone else has it. My friends have it at their place
Good,
now. So.
good, good.
And then this is the line.
It's beautiful.
So we top here, we stretch here, and then yeah, they go in here. It's not a big one. It's a smaller.
Is it 7 series?
Yeah, it's a 8.
8 series.
So it's a 832.
832. Very nice.
And then yeah, we do the baking part is tricky. I'm sure you've used one of these. They don't bake very well in the front compared to the back. So everything's different. You kind of have to.
I know.
There's lots of different ways to deal with that, but
well, you can turn up the intensity in the front. There's a setting for that, right?
Yeah, we have it at 3.
Okay.
So
factory setting is 2.
Yeah, exactly. And then yeah, we go. Everything dries here. The best thing for us was honestly being able to stack all our ready pizzas. This was
yeah. I love it.
So that was nice. So we can stack them all there and throw them in there. Yeah, it's about 5 minutes, a little over 5 minutes, and then they come out the other side.
I love it. It's a small shop, but I think it's mighty. It's set up nicely. That's your IKEA light right there.
Yeah, this thing takes all the pictures on
what kind of bulb is in there that you get such nice quality?
It's just a blue, like a non-warm light. It's like you'd get like a strobe.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So yeah, that's the shop. That's pretty much it. We do.
I'm very impressed. I gotta say.
And then we do all our dishes by hand. This is the.
That doesn't impress me. Everything else impresses me. I've washed a lot of dishes in my life. I don't own a dishwasher myself, so I'm with you.
Yeah, so we'll do about 68 kilos tomorrow, and
beautiful.
That's about what we'll be at.
Let me just tell you right now, you've exceeded all my expectations. I really, really, really appreciate you showing up to this Zoom and learning people, because I think that if people follow your lead, you'll save them a lot of wasted time, right, on low quality flour and not taking care to ferment carefully, and going from a low end to a high end spiral mixer, not having to max it out. You're doing everything right. Right.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I'm doing, so that's
no. You do, and also like you don't have a walk-in, and so you're also fermenting all of your pre-ferments and your doughs not at either 40 degrees or 38 or 33 in a walk-in, or at 80 or 90 degrees depending on how hot it gets up there in the summer. You're really controlling the temperature, and that's so important.
Yeah, and I think to bring it back to the Leaven product.
Yeah.
We're pretty particular about everything and if you ever deal with the sourdough starter, for those people that have one, they change, dude. They change and they act differently sometimes. And
there you go, Justin.
I've had the pizza shop for 3 years. And in the 3 years, I've seen the starter start to shift in how it's gas production, or in its strength, and in how fast it breaks down, and all these things. So
everything.
The way that, for me, this was a interesting thing, is like, okay, here's a very specific build of microorganisms that I can use as a control, really, like from those
consistency, right?
So that'll, if I want, I can try it, and then rebuild the starter again once I feel like it's starting to sway. And yeah, very interesting to try. I actually tried building one at the beginning of the week, and it went real quick.
And then you have the wild yeast as well, correct?
I have the all-purpose one, the pink bag.
Gotcha. So there's another bag of wild yeast. It's not sourdough, and that's a great product if you want to seed your Poolish with that.
Okay, I'm gonna try it. More flavor, more color, more aroma. Beautiful. Okay. Yeah, that's what we like.
Little more depth of flavor than the commercial yeast you get out of the wonderful, beautiful IDY package.
Yeah, I like IDY.
Me too. Me
I
too.
got. I'm not a.
I'm addicted to it.
Yeah, I'm not a purist. So yeah, there you go. But yeah, I always think use the IDY. Don't use, and I don't know why people use active either. It's insane, but
It's a relic of the past.
It's what they
Yeah.
did.
Like so many
It's what they
things.
did. Yeah.
It's tradition.
2 fingers and a coffee mug of salt, right?
yeah. So yeah, that's our thing.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Great. Yeah, a couple things I want to jump in on. Like, I love
Yeah,
how
Justin.
Mike, the photographer background. Another friend of ours, Justin De Leon at Apollonia's. He comes from a
Yeah.
photography background. And what I love about your idea is, like, we're trying to coax as much flavor out of the dough. And it
Yeah.
goes back to what I was joking about, but it is all about that found dough. Like, because the toppings are, we can always get crazy and we can put as much, things on top, but if we don't have a solid foundation, how can we really build upon it, right? I love the idea of senior citizen dough. That's so funny. And did you say you're doing a 1-hour auto lease, huh?
Yeah, and that's actually lower than what we were doing before.
Yeah.
And to be specific too, like some people say, especially pre-ferments they don't tend to be that strong a lot of times compared to pitching fresh yeast. So some people will do their pre-ferments or toss them in and then do their auto lees. We do not. We do our auto lees and then we add our pre-ferments afterwards.
Okay. So that's non-traditional, but if you find that it works, then more power to you.
It's more like bread, I would say, than pizza. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we always say it's variables in your pizza equation. What works for you might not work for everybody else, but if you're consistent in filling them out. Another thing that I like, do you remember Jonathan Goldsmith had the idea about, the starter, you're smelling it and you're like, oh God, it smells horrible. So I really love, Mike, that you were saying, let the nose lead you, when it smells nice and ripe. There you go. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, that's the first thing I did when I built the new one. I smelled it and tasted it, and it's actually quite sweet and fruity, to be honest. The all-purpose one is very sweet, and
we specifically didn't want it to be too acidic, and the next one that we'll be rolling out will be more acidic for people who want that.
Yeah, I thought it was much more on the sweet side than I was expecting.
Well, for people who are on the modern side of sourdough, who feed their sourdough 3 times a day, right? Who keep it at a nice, I mean, actually, depending on how you built your original starter, you could get acidity from low hydration or high hydration, and then I've seen different results also from warm and cold temperatures.
Totally.
But I'm learning as I go.
Yeah, me too. I mean, we were feeding it at 80% twice a day, last year. So
beautiful.
And then before that, we were doing it 100%. We just kind of change it to see what we can get out of it.
Love it. Awesome. So good.
Great. Well, Mike, thank you very much. I think we got to jump on to the next segment, but that was awesome.
Thank you.
It was awesome, man. Great shop. Great shop, dude. So, thanks, brother. That was, it reminds me a lot of Ladybug. What was that face?
No, I'm just so blown away by the first 2 guests. I really am. So impressed.
That's pretty awesome. You know what I'm learning here, Noel? What I'm learning is that you and your wife really like sleeping in different beds. Should we bring on Cameron Martinez?
His name is Martino, and yes,
Martino. I'm sorry, Cam. Sorry, but
very Justin.
I can't read. You guys know, Cam. If you're there, my brother, Martino. Sorry,
not the first time.
Yeah,
in San Diego, I get Martinez a lot.
Yeah,
when I was in Long Island,
check me out.
Messed up the Martino.
Check me out.
There we go.
Me out.
Oh wow.
Huh? A little swag. Oh, I like the little people, the little microbes. This is great. Really I just got to say real quick, you and I had only met over Zoom, and so it was wonderful to get a chance to actually IRL, give you a hug, and get a chance to meet you the other day, brother, in real life, and maybe share some pies and tootle around a little bit, my friend. So that was fantastic.
It was awesome. It was great to see you in person.
Yeah.
For the first time. After all this,
after all these years. So, all right, I'm going to bounce off. I'm going to let you guys get this boat on the show, so to speak. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, Cameron, I want to say thank you. People might not know that you usually get the first spot, right? You make your presentation. short and sweet and get off. But you knew and I knew that we were going to go long with these first two guests, just like we did last week. So you volunteered to go last. So thank you for taking one for the team.
I think it's right, and we had you had two awesome conversations. That was incredible. So
Yeah.
I think if people want to tune in later on YouTube for the math, and if they got to go do what they got to do, then that's great.
We're getting into the science. This is it. Everybody's asleep by now. All right, let's go.
No,
All right,
and we haven't lost. We've only lost one attendee. That's pretty good. Pretty good. It's been an hour and 9 minutes. That's pretty good.
People can watch a baseball game, they can.
There you go. My wife cannot watch a baseball game, but let's not talk about my wife anymore. So, Cameron, what are we doing today? I'm real excited about this.
We're introducing the beginnings of the model that we talked about last week.
Say it again. What are we doing? We're doing what?
We're introducing the beginnings of the model.
Now stop. You gotta you're don't throw too much science on us or math. All right, let's take it slow. Right? Some people don't even know what a fermentation model is. Right? I've been dreaming of them for years, and I was hoping that you would make me a fermentation model, but I had no idea you were going to take it this far.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot more to do. This is just the beginning. We took it easy, and we're taking it simple and easy to start, and we'll work our way up.
I got homework to do because I got to use this model this week because I got to start making pizza with this. We go live on Cinco de Mayo, right?
Yep.
And we got a big project with Karen, right? We're gonna be in their newsletter and on their website. So we gotta bring this stuff together.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
We're in the big leagues now. We got some big people like Mike trying it out. We got to make sure that it works.
Yeah, and what about me? I mean, I've been using sloppy seconds for years now. I finally got 3 bags of each. This is really exciting for me.
I know. I handed them to you, and you said, "For me?" And I said,
"I really couldn't believe it."
You've been getting microbes all the way. I know we've come a long way, huh? From the 5 grams to full bags.
I remember when getting 40 grams of microbes was like Christmas.
Yeah, it was a lot of work before.
A lot of work. All right, so let's do this. So you're building fermentation models. Just go slow with us, and then when there's only a few slides, right? And let's go slow. Don't go slide to slide, and let me jump in and ask questions or slow you down. All right.
All right.
Good. Thank
you.
Should
I go? Should I share?
Go. Let's share.
Okay. Let's see if we can go full screen. Are we full screen?
We were for a second.
Not yet.
Hold on. Sometimes it does this.
Justin's giving you the open nostril look. Justin, I didn't know your nostrils went that wide.
They do.
Very impressive.
Thank you. I get that a lot. Oh, want to just go ahead? I was just a little slow. Shout out for Rad Mike Rad. I was just up there.
Nice, Justin.
Come on,
those are friends.
Yeah. High Street Deli. We were actually 2 weeks ago. We were up in Big Sur with the big trees.
I'm only about a half mile from them.
From High Street. They're great. We always try to stop, but next time I'm going to stop at your shop.
So last week we talked about a pretty awesome model that you've been using for a long time on the pizza forum from TX Craig that we were inspired by, which essentially broke it down for us where for instant dry yeast, there was this chart where you could have a certain amount of hours that you wanted to ferment, and then the temperature that you're going to ferment at, and he skipped hydration, but his was for dough, and it would tell you how much about IDY or ADY or starter that you should use. And we want to do the same thing for our product so that we could, someone could ask on the calculator how many hours they want to ferment for their schedule, what temperature they were going to ferment at. And we also are going to add hydration into the mix. And it would tell someone how much, the baker's percentage or the inclusion rate of the different products that they should add, make it easy for people. And we're starting with pre-ferments, not doughs. questions?
No, I think that's a beautiful thing, and we will include some links in the chat or in the show notes for people who missed last week's, so they can look at the originals that were the profound beginnings of what we have here today.
Okay. So we kind of teased it all last week. We were building this, we're doing that. James made a bunch of Poolish. So we're starting with Poolish, so 100% hydration, traditional hydration amount. And we're going to work our way through different hydrations. But we started building the model for just the Poolish to start. So we're skipping hydration for now. That's the next step. And we're doing everything open. So if anyone out there is interested in how we're doing it, everything's out there on the GitHub. The link's right there if you want to go explore it. It's raw data and code and stuff like that, but we're not hiding anything. You can go look and see exactly how it generated everything.
So I have a couple of questions. Number one, is there even such a thing as open source sourdough?
There is now. We
now.
got the sourdough contract, and now we got the sourdough GitHub.
You know what I love about this also? So many people are secretive about their sourdough, right? We're the opposite, aren't we?
We're trying to be as open as possible.
Good.
People can ask questions that only get better.
Now, I before you go on, I just want to show everybody this little printout here. And what's so wonderful about this printout is this is what James sent me about a week ago. And it has 11 different mixes that he did just with Poolish. And it's not a dough, just a Poolish, right? At 100% hydration, 3 different temperatures, 80 degrees Fahrenheit, 72 degrees Fahrenheit, and 60 degrees Fahrenheit, right? For different times. Some were 4 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, 11 hours, 15, 18, 24 hours, right? And from these basic measurements, and you were measuring a lot more than times and temps and hydrations, you built an entire beautiful model, right?
Exactly.
Incredible.
And the more data we feed it, the more accurate we'll get. So, it's plus or minus an hour right now. It will get better. The more data we add, we'll get closer and closer so that we'll get more and more accurate for people over time.
And then I didn't know this a few years ago until I started building my own websites, but can you tell people just so everybody knows, what is GitHub?
Just a place where people put code. Open source just means that everything is available for people to look at. So like a closed source code is like, Microsoft, you can't go in there and see exactly how they did everything. Open source just means every line of code, anyone could go on the internet and look through it if they wanted to.
Love it.
Okay. We don't need to go through this, but if anyone's curious on how we built the model, I put a bunch of notes in the what we call a notebook, because it mixes code with text that explains what the code is in each cell, is what we call them. So you can go through and look through it if you want. If you're not interested, just skip it. But it's there if you're interested. And there's the link. Good.
I'm interested. I went to the link and didn't know what I was looking at. But you know what? I'm going to keep going back, and I'm going to learn from every line. I've done that. I was a WYSIWYG website builder 20 years ago, and now I actually can, mangle some code now and then.
Yeah, as a famous physicist once said, it's not that complicated. There's just a lot of it.
That's
Right.
true. Yeah.
Okay. Now to the fun part, right? This is what we spent a bunch of time talking about today.
This is the new stuff. I haven't seen this one yet.
Yeah. So this is the output from the model. So essentially for our wild yeast and for the all-purpose, I guess I switched the labels here. So this is the all-purpose link. This is the wild yeast link here. We have temperatures ranging from 40 degrees Fahrenheit all the way to 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and inclusion rates here in the columns, ranging from 0.006% all the way to 2%. This is the all-purpose one here. We have this the same spreadsheet for the wild yeast. And then in the entries, we have hours, just like the inspiration TX Craig. It's just adapted for our product so that you can look in and find a similar amount. And this is for Poolish only right now. In the future, we'll add hydration into the mix. We got to figure out how we're going to visualize that into a spreadsheet because it's going to be a nightmare. But we're going to make an interactive thing on the website eventually where you can just kind of input what you want and it will spit out the results so you don't have to look through a spreadsheet.
Yeah. So you actually showed me the beginnings of that today, and I said, no, Cameron, I can't even understand what you're doing. Can we please put it in a TX Craig style tribute spreadsheet, please? And you did it
Yes.
in like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
You're amazing.
I'm not as good as many. Some people even on the call are better at spreadsheets than me, but I did my best.
Good.
And yeah, we haven't added hydration yet, but this is the goal, is where you add, right now you can say hours and temperature, how much product at 100% hydration, but we'll add hydration into this so that you can figure it out. And then I think the next steps are also, we're doing beyond pre-ferments, we're doing starters and doughs themselves. So, dough's a little different because we're not just looking for a peak activity. We're trying to figure out when the best, window is for a dough, which is more complicated. And
Yes.
we were talking today about Bigas too. There's complexities there, right? Because they don't rise and fall like a Poolish. So
No, very different. Especially as we discovered when you get down to the really low hydration ones, right? In the low 40s. How about that?
yes, exactly.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the reason we're putting this all open for people is because we want people to ask questions and test it, and working with people who are using the product will improve it over time.
I gotta say, I never learned so much about pizza as when I started teaching online classes, right?
Yeah.
You get to a point in your career and you think you're something of a know-it-all because people refer to you as an expert and stuff like that, and it goes to your head. But I gotta say, like, when Justin and I used to teach beginner classes, we used to teach 4 a week during COVID, and then an intermediate and the advanced. At first, I liked the advanced class the best. Then I liked the intermediate class the best. And then at the end, I just loved the beginner class because it's so great to work with adults and kids and everybody in between, just like getting the nitty gritty down, right?
I want to jump in there and just be like, it was literally the first open source pizza party that we were doing. I mean, kind of. I mean, when we were doing the beginner classes during the pandemic, it was a pizza party with all those people, and I agree with you 100%. So I'm really excited for filling in once again. I'm like an old broken clock, the variables in this pizza equation.
Thank you, Justin.
Yeah.
So let me do this. Before we say our parting words. I want to run through a few quick queries with you, if I may, Cameron, because I want to bring it from the theoretical to the actual, to the physical world, right, of pizza makers and bread bakers. So let me tell you how I'm thinking about this, and maybe you can help me to use the model. And then soon we're going to be publishing these models, and we're going to be building tools for the website which will use these models in the background, but for right now we're showing them in the foreground, right? So
Correct.
A couple of things. So you can have your Leaven and your Poolish, your Biga, your dough on different schedules, right? At different temperatures and different times. But when it comes to a Poolish, it's really important when you feed it, right? Meaning, do you feed it at 5 o'clock and then are you going to use it at 7 o'clock the next morning? In that case, it's a 14-hour cycle, right? And then our models have to reflect. They're not all going to be the same for each end user. It depends on the flour you're using, right? It depends on so many things. So let me call out a few times and temps, and let's just kind of see what we come up with. All right. All right, so one of the things that I like to do is I like to take my long fermented overnight Leaven, right? And I like to build it again in the morning warm so that it's like fresh and fruity and not too sour, and it's going to really leaven the bread or the pizza really nicely. So let's say I want to do a 4-hour feed, right? at 80 degrees Fahrenheit. What are we looking at?
So we're going to find 80 here.
Yeah.
Highlight that. And you can see some of the numbers are crazy in here, right? Just like TX Craig, we just left them in there if, nobody's doing a 3-4 day Poolish, but as far as I know, but we can, we can leave them in there for people to explore. So here, 80 degrees, and we got 4 hours there. Boom. Around 1.5, 1.6% inclusion.
Good.
This is for the all-purpose product. Basically, it's plus or minus an hour, right? So at these super low values, you might want to try a little range, but also it's going to go really fast regardless. So
okay, so it's a got it. So that would be the inclusion rate in Baker's math, right?
Yes, yeah, as
So
a percentage of flour.
Very good. All right, so that's 4 hours at 80 degrees. Let's try another one. All right. Let's say let's say I'm working a long shift and I'm the sous chef at a restaurant and service ends at 11 o'clock on a Thursday and I want to build a Poolish at midnight, last thing I do before I leave. And then the guys that come in the morning, let's say at 7 o'clock, they get everything all meased out and at 8 o'clock they mix. So that's going to be an 8-hour fermentation, right? And I'm going to say it's not going to be 80 degrees because all the ovens and all the kitchen equipment will be turned off, but it might be 70. So tell me what our inclusion rate will be for, let's say, an 8-hour ferment at 70 degrees.
Boom, 70. You haven't changed.
Hasn't changed.
So you're staying at 1.5, 1.6.
Yeah.
But you lowered the temperature.
Very good.
So you can try this pretty much the same amounts.
Got it.
Easy.
Softball, if you will. Good. Now, this might get a little crazy here, but let's say I'm going to be a little more traditional. Let's say I'm working in a bakery, right? Or let's say I get off at 5 o'clock, right? That's when I'm the dough guy, and service starts at 6, and I already got there at 8 o'clock in the morning, so I've been working my 8 or 9 hours. So I'm going to do a Poolish at 5 o'clock p.m. and I want it to last for a much longer period. Let's say 18 hours, and I'm not going to. Let's say it's a little cooler. Let's say it's about 60 degrees. And I'm basing these times and temps on actual jobs, on actual Poolishes and Bigas and Leavens that I've built. So tell me what the inclusion rate is for 18 hours at about 60 degrees Fahrenheit.
All right. Here we go. Can you tell we prepped?
I can.
There we go. 60 degrees, 18 hours, 1.5.
1.5. So all of these are in about the same inclusion rate, right? And so that's kind of on purpose because I looked at James's models and I saw that inclusion rate right there and it looked about right for some of the times and temps. But the way this chart works is not quite so convenient. You can say I want to do 18 hours at 50 degrees, or I want to do 3 hours at 85 degrees, or I want to do 6 hours at 90 degrees, right? You can do anything you want, right? And so no matter what your time, no matter what your intent, we've got the inclusion rate. And just as a reminder, it's not an exact science in this case, right? Can you explain how it's not an exact science?
Well, it's a model. So, we kind of fit and approximate things, and it's plus or minus an hour is our prediction range. So basically we took, the data James generated, we took some of it and learned and use the model to predict the other data we didn't have. And that's how we figured out it's plus or minus an hour. But we only have a little bit of data. And so, the farther you get away from what we already have, the more crazy things can get. And in some cases, it's just not even interesting. I mean, I think the same is true for that TX Craig spreadsheet. There's some areas where he colored red on purpose because it just makes no sense to try that. Yeah. And this would have similar red areas.
Sure.
And when we put it, as the interface where you can just kind of move the knob and figure out where you want to go on the website, we'll have limits, I think, probably set where, we're starting to get into the area we don't really know well, the output will reflect that. Essentially, we'll have a warning there or something saying you've passed into the area of very low confidence.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of different variables in the pizza equation, as Justin always says. So I think that as a first whack at this model, I'm very impressed. I'm actually a little bit scared because now I actually have to use this model, and I have to validate your assertions, your suspicions. What do you call them? What's the scientific term?
Assumptions.
Assumptions. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it's all about that validate dough.
Oh, you did it. You did it,
I
Justin.
did.
That was
I
so
did.
good. You coined a new term.
Always, baby.
See how he does that? That's why you're still with us, Justin. Listen, I've had from here to here, I've gotten complaints on you. You're not funny. You're not witty. You're not even nice. This is what people say, and I'm like, no. You don't know Justin like I know Justin. I've heard you deliver the same monologue literally 500 times, never twice the same. Literally all the same words, always variations in that pizza equation.
That's the way we roll, Noel.
That's the way you roll, Justin. I'm learning from you.
Troubadours on a journey to find the best pizza dough and share it with people that we care about. So
Love it.
You know, it's pretty dope. Pretty dope.
Justin, do you have any questions? Are there any questions in the chat?
There are a couple questions in the chat, but John, I think Cam just asked one. John was talking about inclusion rates, and Cameron was able to ask. I mean, this is a lot of stuff on the back end, and what is really exciting, and I know we are a bunch of dough dorks just kind of dough geeking out, and we are trying to back it up with data, and we want to invite everybody to participate in said finding out. Let's fill out those variables in the pizza equation together so we can share the best tasting pie that is accessible, that we like, that we want to share. So I'm really excited about this.
Good.
So yeah, I don't really have any questions. I kind of.
All right, we're good. We're good. Yeah. We're an hour and a half in, 1:32, but who's counting?
Yeah.
So thank you both, Justin. You today we're running the show because I did not have a Wi-Fi and I'm still not running on Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Just, you guys
the
get
whole
double
hotel
beds?
is out.
Double beds? Is that...
we have two queens. Yes.
Yeah.
That's how we roll. That's how we roll.
Yeah. My wife, when I was gone on Saturday,
you snore. I don't have to tell you.
Wow. It's.
I can look at you and tell that you snore.
What are you talking about?
I'm
working out. Working out.
Have you working out your snore?
My wife said while I was gone, she was starfishing. So
I don't know what that means.
That means you just spread out really big.
Starfishing. I thought I meant fishing for stars.
Can we bring Jimmy on too before we?
Yeah, where is that guy, Mr. Model? He's the true model here, not these numbers.
I know.
He gets handsomer and handsomer every day. Look at this guy.
God, jeez Louise.
I'm very impressed with your work, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing the back end. Cam, why don't you pause it and we can, or mute it, and we can talk to Jimmy for a second.
I like watching James just nod because he knows he can't talk.
One of these days we'll get like a little sound booth or something that you guys.
One of these days you'll have your own office.
Yeah, we might have more than one room in the future, potentially.
Yeah, no, you guys are it's like me and you in the back seat of Cameron's truck. We're like Siamese pizza twins.
Right. The Tetris that was, right?
Yeah.
That's right. So, if you wouldn't mind, how did it go with all the modeling? Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you disgusted? Are you tired? What are you?
It's going great. And we'll do the Bigas and continue on with some different hydration, and then go back and validate, and hopefully it's useful to everybody. That's ultimately
it's useful to me. That's for sure.
Yeah, but you're not the only person out there, Noel.
Well, I know, but I'm supposed to start teaching people how to use this stuff.
Hopefully we're going to have thousands of users, and hopefully it's useful for them too.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the goal.
All right, that is the goal. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
Not all about me, right?
Exactly.
Thank you.
And that's what I've been telling him the whole friggin' time. But
Justin,
you know,
I can't hear you over my loud voice.
yeah,
That's always the problem.
can't hear me over that ego, huh?
Well, on that note, I want to say thank you to everybody. This has been a wonderful Zoom. I am going to mute myself and let you guys say your goodbyes.
1 second, 1 second. I just want to confirm before you jump off. So next week on the 5th, so today is Tuesday, we're going to be Cinco de Mayo. We sure that we want to be
doing Neapolitan? I think we do.
Doing class, great. And just to let everybody know, we're going to be doing a mix on that day, and we're going to be using the
absolutely
microbes.
Fixated. We're going to be using the microbes. We're going to be doing a mix. We might even be doing a little baking.
Great.
I got Cameron and James some Neapolitan 00 flour.
Good.
So what's the highest you guys have ever turned that Pizza Master oven up to? Have you gotten it up to 750 yet? 725?
I don't think so. Not yet.
Okay, get ready.
Cool.
Scary.
Cool.
Very scary.
Get ready.
So people are asking about the recordings. Yes, we have the recordings up. They're always going to be on Noel's YouTube channel under the Science of Sourdough. You might have to get a couple of them because we've been doing this for a while, but they're down at the bottom, and we'll try our hardest to get this one up by the end of the week. Hopefully, one last thing. Nothing. I just want to. We're not having any guests next week. We're just going to be focusing on the mix. Is that correct?
I don't think we're going to have any guests. I
Okay.
think we're going to be just focusing on the mix.
Great. Cam, Jimmy, you want to say your thanks, and then Noel and I will slow walk us out.
Yeah, thank you everybody for showing up. It's amazing to see the turnout, and especially the guests. Man, it was a great set of guests that we had. So it was tremendous. Thank you.
James said it for me. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thanks to Mike and Danny for coming. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, today, of course, was a dream team, if I may say. Everybody contributed equally, and it's like we all are here out of the goodness of our hearts and souls. And I think that we're making things happen. I'm super excited about this open source sourdough model. I don't even know what that means, but I'm excited about it. So, and I'm looking forward to putting all of this math and science to good use and starting to roll out the Neapolitan, the Neo-Neapolitan, the New York, the Pan Pizza, and the Roman. Those are going to be the 5 mother doughs that we are going to roll out, and we're going to use both our AP and our wild yeast products to make not only a variety of doughs, but a variety of pre-ferments. So that's what's on the plan in the coming weeks and months.
This is terribly exciting. Noel, do you predict that those classes might be more than the 1 hour? Are we going to be pushing the limits a little bit? What do you think? Just so people know what they're getting into. But they will be available always on your YouTube channel, correct?
Correct.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, everybody. We really appreciate you sticking with us. Thanks to Danny. Thank you to Mike. That was outstanding. We love nothing more than doing a deep dive on the dough dorking and conversating about the doji dough, a little song and dance. Nobody wants bones in the boneyard. Nobody wants that LDP. Come on. We're all trying to get that nice structure and a big Kanoto crust. You know the deal. Thank you to everybody. Cam, Jimmy, we love you so. Noel, please have fun in FLA. Enjoy the concert. Tell ABZ, give her a hug. Hey, look at that. Hey. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know the deal. Here at Slow Rise, we do not get into the politics of pepperoni and pineapple. Oh no, my friends, you know, we say pizza always, and always pizza. Pieces and slices with love. Yeah. Look at Noel and Danny. Look at Noel and Danny.